Hello, Indianapolis Motor Speedway fans. Doug Bowles coming to you from our amazing Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. If you're coming in May, or even if you're coming in other times of the year, please check out the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. It really houses our history and tells the stories of what makes the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and in particular, the Indianapolis 500 so special. One of those people, though, that's made the Indianapolis 500 so special is joining us today on Behind the Bricks. Three-time Indianapolis 500 winner, Johnny Rutherford. This guy basically controlled the 1970s at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, even into the 80s. If you were going to win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you had to beat Johnny Rutherford. And in all likelihood, Johnny Rutherford was going to win, and you weren't going to beat him. Johnny, thank you for joining us here today.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here again at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it's, you know, the fans here are the greatest. You know, they're the ones that make the place. I've had people tell me I had the best seats in the house. I said, oh no, no, you didn't. I had one of the 33 best seats in the house, and it's always been great. It's been my life for all these years.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that as we go forward, but what I really want to talk about right now is just a few minutes ago, and this is actually leading into opening week for the Indy 500 practice, but a few minutes ago as we're taping this, we unveiled something pretty special. You got a call, and we asked you to help us design the program cover for this year's month of May, and we just unveiled that alongside Amaya Mims, who helped kind of bring it all to life. Yes. And one of the questions I asked you, I don't know that everybody knows, you've enjoyed drawing and your artwork and your paintings, and I've seen a lot of the Yellow Submarine that you've done over the years. It's just beautiful work. I asked you, was it more stressful to have to draw the front of the cover for the Indy 500 than it is starting the 500? You said yes.
Yes, it was. It's quite an honor to be asked to do that, but I haven't done any artwork in several years, and it was a challenge, a real challenge, but an honor. And I felt like I would do what we thought would be good for it, and it turned out.
It turned out really nice. I think the fans are going to enjoy it. I know we certainly are proud of the work that you did and proud of the work that Amaya did. And you guys didn't even collaborate. You gave her the work, yep. And she said, okay, now I got to create what that work's going to be.
And it worked.
It worked out fantastic.
Yes.
The other thing I think we ought to touch on, you haven't raced in the Indianapolis 500 for many years, but you don't miss the month of May. In fact, your coach rolled in here before the GMR Grand Prix, and you basically live here in the month of May. Can you imagine a month of May without being in Indianapolis?
No, I really couldn't. It's my life. Yep. You know, it's what I've known for over 40 years, and coming here the first time in '60 and watching that great race between Roger Ward and Jim Rathman, and then getting the chance to run here in '63, my rookie year, and it's been my life ever since.
So when you first started racing, you started in IMCA Modifieds. Did you know that you wanted to run at Indianapolis, or did you think about running south? Because you go down south early on in your career, and you become the youngest driver to win one of the duels. You show up at Daytona and scare those guys, because here comes this guy, and he can pedal. Were you on the fence maybe where you were going to end up?
No. Honestly, I drove Smokey Unick's car at Daytona in '63 and won one of the 100-mile qualifying races, as you said, and had fast time, new track record, world record for stock cars, and I didn't know until several years later why Smokey Unick hired me to drive his car, and he said, I had been to a couple of your sprint car races and I liked what I saw. And wow, that was something. But Smokey asked me during the event at times, he said, do you want to stay down here and run for me in NASCAR? And I said, Smokey, I really want to go to Indianapolis. That's where I want to be. And he knew, because he loved this place. Smokey had 2 or 3 cars here that he had built and run, and he liked the challenge of this place. And so I had, because of what I accomplished at Daytona, a car owner said he'd give me a test, and so I took the advantage, and that was it. I made the race my first year, I think I ran 148.063 miles an hour and put me in the field, and had problems with the car. But anyway, it was a beginning, and I cherish that thought and that happening a great deal.
The early part of your career here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you come in '63, famous race because Parnelli Jones wins it. You go through a harrowing experience in 1964. Eldora comes up a couple of years later. You have to miss the race in '66. Was there a point early on in your career where you might have thought, I may never get a chance to win the Indianapolis 500?
Never. That was my challenge. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to race here, and it was all through my career I kept having opportunities, things that I took advantage of, and it just walked me right up the line. And I always told my wife Betty that if we ever found anybody that wanted to race as badly as I did, that we'd be winners. And I found them with McLaren, and signed up with McLaren, and the car we tested here in I think January before the event that May, and the car was terrible. It just pushed, understeered terribly, and we tried for 3 days to get it straightened out. Well, it wouldn't do it. So they took the car and sent it back to England for the designer, Gordon Coppock, to do something with it. And they brought it back in May. That was the car. And I got in the car and went out, and I'm not kidding. That's the first time I'd ever been able to go around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway flat-footed. Never had to lift. Set a new track record, and it was great. The car was perfect. We had a problem mechanically during the race, and I think I finished 9th after they got it fixed. But we were there, and so I just kept building and started winning. I won the race in '74, and in '75 could have. But
Thunderstorm didn't help people, did it?
Yeah, the rained us out, and we had made a pit stop, and I was finished second. And then I won it in '76 when the rain helped me again. And the McLaren backed out of IndyCar racing in '79, and I drove for Jim Hall in the famous yellow submarine, the Pennzoil Chaparral, and won my third one. And wow. And then drove for Jim for a while, and then things kind of settled down, and I started looking for somebody like Jim Hall or McLaren that I could drive for and maybe put together a fourth one. Never happened. Never happened. So anyway, time marches on.
It does. Well, I want to back up to '73 because people obviously know you as a 3-time winner, but you're also a 3-time pole sitter. It started in 1973, and you alluded to it a little bit, but the speed jumps in the early '70s were dramatic. So you talk about a track record. It was significant to go the difference in speed from year over year. Was that scary as a race car driver, surprising as a race car driver that the speeds jumped that much that year?
No, it was just evolution. The time that it went, the next year people were finding out things that they could do to the car or get more horsepower and do what it took to gain speed each year, and it did jump each year, and it was in digressing back to '73, McLaren and me, we were the first to ever go 200 miles an hour on the stopwatch around the Speedway. And we did that probably 3 or 4 times during practice, unofficial. And then qualifying day for the pole, we went out, and that's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This old lady can throw some curves at you, you won't believe. And I tell young drivers that, you just got to be you got to be ready for about anything. And we went out, and sure enough, we slowed down. I had one lap at 199, and then 3 laps at 198, and it wasn't 200. And I always regretted that, because it took several years before I think Tom Sneva finally went 200 miles an hour, and I would like to have had that title.
Well, Tom only has one Indy 500 win, so he might have been just as happy to trade you for your 3, which is pretty special. You talk about Jim Hall. Maybe one of the most iconic cars in our history is the Yellow Submarine that you got to drive, and that was in that era of ground effects, and that was just such a radical design. Did it drive differently than anything you've driven before?
It put you in a whole new realm. The M16 McLaren that I won 2 races here was a flat bottom car, and it was fun to drive because you could drift it pretty hard, and we won a lot of races with the M16. But then I went to the Chaparral, and it put you in a whole new realm. It got so much downforce. We tested at Phoenix with the car, and after we sorted through, and my crew chief, Steve Roby, got the car the way I like to drive it, we were nearly 2 seconds under the track record. And the only time you had to lift, Phoenix is a pear-shaped racetrack. 1 and 2 are smaller than 3 and 4. Was in going into turn 1, you just cracked the throttle back to transfer weight to the right front so it would turn, and you didn't have to lift till you came back around to turn 1, and that was a whole new deal. The car, I've said this, and some of the guys laugh, because the car was getting so much lateral G grip that it made you grunt. Going through the corner, and it was a new deal, and we had a lot of good luck with that car.
Well, you win a championship that year in that car. You won a bunch of races. One of the unique things about you, and I actually want to go back to that race here at the Speedway, because I have a question I've always been interested in, and I'll ask it here in a minute. But you've won 3 Indy 500s here, but you've also won at Pocono in the 500. You won in Michigan in the 500. There are not a lot of people that can say they have 5 500-mile victories to their name. What was it about the 500-mile race that just seemed to suit your style?
The team, number one, the car they produced for me, and the fact that you have to be very, not cautious, but you have to be ready to go the 500 miles. Mm-hmm. And you sometimes you have opportunities that you don't want to take because it might not work out for you. But learning how to drive the 500-mile races, I think the distance, the time the teamwork of the crew, it all kind of comes together with a win.
To me, it's always been a combination, those longer races, especially back in the 70s and 80s, a combination of talent, but also brain power. You had, to your point, you had to say, okay, I'm not going to make this move right now because I want to make sure that I'm here at the end, and you were always good at that. So 1980, Indy 500 ends, and one of the most iconic images in that iconic car, you pick up a extra passenger to bring him into victory lane. I've always wondered, how did that happen? Was Tim Richmond hitchhiking? Did you pull over and say, hey, hop on? How did that happen?
We always made an extra lap just in case of the timing and scoring. And so I always made I came back around, and he was standing beside his car with his hands on his hips. And he looked like if he had a gun, he'd shoot it, because it was smoking and it was dead in the water in turn 4 on the inside. And I just was coming around, and I drove up where he was, and I locked the brakes up and stopped, kicked it in neutral and stopped, and he came running over and said, "Did you win?" And I said, "Yes, I did." He shook my hand. Good. I said, "Do you want to ride back to the pits?" He said, "What?" I said, "Get on the side pod, hold the roll bar, and I'll take you back." It's a long walk to the pit area. So I took him to the pit area, and he got off, shook my hand again, and I went up in victory lane and started all the fol-de-rol. And I always say that I wish that Tim had stayed in IndyCar racing because he had enough talent. He could have won this thing, and I could tell people I showed him the way to victory lane.
That's a great point. I've always wondered, you see those pictures of Tim on the side of the car coming down pit lane. I just never saw how it started, and that it was interesting
that was
to hear
it,
that conversation. I'm sure I'm not alone, so thank you for that, because that's a special moment. So being from Texas, you have a battle with another Texan for sort of the Lone Star JR thing stuck really well for you, but there's another Texan named AJ Foyt. You guys compete forever, but at one point in your career, I can remember going to Michigan, and you're driving for AJ in the 14 car. Do you and AJ always get along, or at what point in time did it get to a point where you were okay taking a call from AJ and saying, yeah, I'll drive your car, AJ?
Well, it was, somewhat like that. It was a situation where obviously I needed a ride, and it was driving for AJ is an experience. I'm here to tell you. We ran at Michigan, and we had a pre-race meeting of the crew, and the thing about AJ, he always had his crew, but he didn't have a crew for the second car, and that was, okay. So anyway, AJ said, if Rutherford's in, I stay out. And if I'm in, Rutherford stays out. Okay, got that deal. So I get the signboard pit. So I make the lap, come in and pit, stop. My car goes up in the air on the jacks. All four wheels come off of it, and it gets real quiet. It gets real quiet. And I thought, what the hell's going on? I looked in the mirrors, and AJ was behind me, and the guys all left to service his car, and he got serviced and drove out ahead of me. They came back and put me back together and sent me out. It was an experience, to say.
I'm sure. One of the things that was fun about growing up in the era when I got to see Johnny Rutherford and Mario Andretti and the Unsers and Foyts, people argue today that the field that's going to run in the Indianapolis 500 day is as strong as ever, and in a lot of ways it is maybe all the way to the back of the field. But I can't imagine, as a race car driver, coming into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the 60s and staying through, as you did, through the 80s. You had 10, 15, 18 drivers that could win the Indy 500 every year. It was unbelievable. Some of our most iconic figures, you included, competed at that point in time. As a race car driver, is that ever frustrating and you think, oh my gosh, I need some of these guys to go away because I want to go win this race?
No, you love the challenge,
Yep.
and they all did too. There was a group of us, the Unsers, Andretti, Foyt, Mears. There were several of a group of us that raced each other
Yep.
every race, and it was challenge and good.
Yep.
But it was all of us, and then suddenly they started retiring and going away, and Al Unser and I were the last two of the group left out of our clan, and he announced that he was going to retire, and I thought, what the hell am I doing here? I couldn't find the people to work with that I wanted to be able to produce winners, and so I decided that was it. And AJ had retired the year before, or 2 years before, and when I decided that I was going to retire, I told Betty, and then I went over to AJ's garage. I said, AJ, do you have a car that I could take a last lap around here? He never hesitated. Mm-hmm. Spun around and asked his crew chief, is that car ready? Rutherford's going to take a couple of laps. He said, yes. And so they got it ready, and I went out and made my last 2 laps around here in a race car, and that was it. Retired.
I think it's a special moment just because of the Texas connection, both of you growing up, running sprint cars and being so dominant, the two of you here. That is one of those moments that I think is special. And as for as fiery as AJ could be, it's pretty neat that that happened that way. I've got one more question for you, and then I think I'd love for you to say something to the fans, but I want to touch on this because it's meant an awful lot to our entire community. There's never been a love affair in our paddock like yours and Betty's. You met here at the Speedway. You two have done so much for the Speedway. Unfortunately, we've lost Betty. How special was that bond, that relationship? And she seemed to always be by your side. She was the first person to defend Johnny Rutherford. She was the first person to volunteer to help this community out. The two of you were an example for other marriages of how marriages should be in an environment that oftentimes is very, very difficult. Tell me a little bit about that how that love was between the two of you, and how are you doing right now?
It's still hard to, she's been gone 2 years now, and it's everything in the house is Betty, and so it's that's the way it is. But we met. It was I was going to take the last phase of my driver's test in '63. And we rolled the car through the old gasoline alley and out onto the pit lane, and I was carrying my helmet, and I just reached over and dropped it in the seat and looked up, and there was this cute blonde standing there at the fence. And we argue about what happened next, because I said I winked at her, and she winked back, and she says, "No, I waved back." So that was our argument for 55, 56 years. But anyway, I went on back down to the north end of the pits where they staged the driver's tests, and got in the car and went out. And we had a problem, and I came in, and they took the car away, and I was walking back the long way to the gasoline alley entrance. And there used to be Firestone was on one side to check tires as you rolled out, and then on the other side was a first aid station where Goodyear wound up being. So anyway, first aid station, I walked by there, she's standing at the door talking to friends, and the first words I ever said to Betty is, "Haven't I seen you someplace before?" And I asked her if she would like to go out for dinner that evening, and she says no, but she gave me her phone number, and I found out later that she wanted to check and make sure that I wasn't already married. A lot of guys were separated from their wives. Their wife was home and they were in Indianapolis. But anyway, we started dating, and she was a registered nurse, and Betty was a really smart lady. Mm-hmm. And she could have been a doctor, if she had chosen to. In fact, she and two of her friends were on their way to California to work in the hospital out there. And it turned out that we fell in love desperately, and she decided not to go to California. And it was, just love at first sight. Everything worked out, and she stayed, and we met the 1st of May. We were engaged the 1st of June, and we were married the 7th of July. So everybody says, "Wow, that's fast." I said, "I'm a race driver." When Betty got her parents to come to the Speedway and meet me, she had them up at the very top, where the gasoline alley went through, up in that corner of the top of the grandstands. And her dad wasn't sure that maybe I wasn't married. He was, had to be sold that deal. And so I was down in the garage area, and I came around, and Betty motioned to me, so I went around and went up to meet her parents. Well, I got up there and shook hands with her dad and her mom, and she had one of her sister there. And anyway, I was talking with them, and suddenly over the garage area PA system came, "Johnny Rutherford, meet your wife and kids at the back garage area gate." And I was looking right at her dad, and I would love to have had a picture of the look on his face. And Betty and I looked at each other and laughed, and we knew what it was. So we stepped up and looked over down in the garage area, and Chuck Hulse and Bobby Marshman were rolling on the ground laughing. They knew, and that was one of the best tricks ever played on me.
So you've just come up with something we're going to have to do for Behind the Bricks is ask drivers their favorite garage PA stories, because back in the day that was a big deal to prank people on the garage PA.
Yes, it was. There were a lot, but you can't talk about them.
That's great. Thank you for that ad.
No.
Well, it was an amazing example for our entire paddock to watch the two of you grow together here, just continue to love each other in the way that you did, and we continue to pray for you and know how special she was. I often say that race car drivers love X, Y, and Z, but that love was always surpassed by their love for the Indianapolis 500. You have a love for the Indianapolis 500 that was only surpassed by your love for Betty, and it just really meant a lot.
Yes.
Well, we're going to wrap this up, but what I want you to do, I know folks get a chance to see you around here at the racetrack. This year we get to have fans. I just thought you might want to say thanks to the fans and what they meant to you over the last few years.
I can't say enough to the fans. It's always been great around here, and to have the fans come in and show their desire to talk with the drivers or get autographs, and I always felt like that was something they deserved. It was something to sign a program or a picture or whatever they had, and it's always something we look forward to, a chance to visit with the people that make this all possible, the fans.
Well, thank you, JR. Race fans, you see him around the racetrack. Some of us have grown up watching him race and beat the best as he ran here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 27 wins, 24 pole positions in his career, a championship in the IndyCar Series, but most importantly, 3 wins here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and more importantly than that, a fan favorite and always will be. He'll be out here this May. Look out for JR wearing the McLaren colors, a little throwback to when he won 2 Indianapolis 500s. So thank you, JR, for spending time with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So we all know that the NTT IndyCar Series drivers can drive cars, but do you think they know anything about pop culture? I'm not quite sure, but let's find out.
Yes, I do know who Joe Exotic is, and I know that he's still in prison.
Joe Exotic. Oh yeah, the Tiger guy. Yeah, man. Tiger King.
Joe Exotic, yeah, he was the Tiger King guy on that Netflix show that everyone went crazy for.
Joe Exotic is a legendary human being who probably committed several felonious acts and is in jail for who knows how long.
I have no idea. I don't watch the halftime. Yeah, I don't care.
The Weeknd? The Weeknd?
The Weeknd?
The Weeknd, it was average.
The Weeknd on the weekend of the Super Bowl weekend performed at the 2021 Super Bowl, yes.
Bachelor. Harry Lineback Jr.
What's his name? My girlfriend loves the show. I'm, as you can see, a huge fan as well. I can't remember his name. I don't know.
No, don't know. Dan.
Matt James.
What year was it? Do you know the year? Can you use it in a sentence? I don't know.
Joe Biden.
Couldn't tell you. Michael Phelps?
Harry Styles.
So I've worked at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for 10 years and have had an opportunity to get to know an awful lot of people. But somebody that a lot of our fans will know, and somebody I've really appreciated getting to knowing, and actually is a go-to person when we've got problems at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, is Linda Price. Linda is in our ticketing team. She's one of our senior coordinators. She's been here for 45 years. And not unlike Donald, she said, hey, I need to take a little time off and go do some other things. I love the Speedway. She was going to retire in 2020. We convinced her to stay. She's definitely going to retire in 2021. But what I wanted to do was get an opportunity for us to talk to Linda. Really to say thank you, Linda, for all you've done for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but in particular for our fans. What are you thinking about right now? You're a few months from retiring. You've got one more Indianapolis 500 to get through. More importantly, you've got a renewal process that we need you to get through. How is your mindset going into 2020? Are you going to tell us you're going to stay another year? Or is this going to be it?
No, this is definitely it. This is definitely it. I'll stay through December, but I did have a plan in mind, and I wanted the opportunity to really enjoy, a 500 again. Last year was not the not the best time, So I really wanted to do that again, go through the process again. I'm really looking forward to the Brickyard with the doubleheader that we have on that Saturday. I want to do something new. I want to be involved with something new. So I've got that planned out, and then we'll see. I'll come back and help if you need me. I'll say that. But
well, don't offer that up because we definitely need you. It's oftentimes you get emails from me, you get emails from Mark. When we have ticketing issues, you really are the person that helps us solve those. And part of it is that time and history you've gone here, but one of your unique approaches is not just understanding our manifest and where tickets are, but you've made it your life's work here at the Speedway to create relationships with customers. And I often say, we could have a huge line at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at the counter, and somebody get to the front of the line and they say, well, I want to talk to Linda. And if you say, well, she's got 3 people backed up, they'd rather wait another hour to talk to you than just talk to any random person. But that was, your process all along has been about relationships, and you've connected people to the Speedway through that. What's different about your mindset, and when did you realize that it was about relationships and not just about moving numbers in a computer?
when I first came to work here, I didn't know anything about racing. I mean, I was just desperate for a job, straight out of college. I was desperate for a job, and so I was, that was an anxious time. But as I stayed, I began to make that switch from working at a place to working for something historical, something big, something bigger than me, international. And I think that when you reach that point, you know that it's something special. You know that you've been given, I call it life opportunities. I call it that ability to expand your horizons and expand your abilities, fine-tune what you have, share it with others. I would say from the very beginning I was working towards this, but I love people, and I think that is probably the one.
One of your unique skills is taking a customer who's having a frustrating moment with where they're seated, or the inability because there's so much demand to actually move up to a different seat, and you always seem to find a resolution with those customers, and you don't ever seem to be afraid to take on the difficult challenge. It seems like it's almost a challenge for you, and it's amazing how many times we'll send you a note, we need help with X, Y, or Z, and the next day or two we get a note back and say, it's all solved, customer's happy, here's where we are.
I don't know how I developed that. It just kind of began to come naturally as I talked with people, and I discovered that I want to be very truthful with you. I mean, I'm not here to sell you a ticket. I'm here to convince you that you have the best seats in the house. I am here to convince you that regardless of how long you've been here, I am not going to be able to put you on the front row of E-Penthouse. And I just feel like that's part of it. I think people can sense that I'm being very truthful with them. And I just love the interaction. And you have sent me a couple that were a little difficult, but it normally works out in the end because, you know, I will promise to work with them and I will be a contact for them. And I think when people have that,
right,
it makes them comfortable. It makes them think this big place cares.
So you talk about history, and obviously this place is full of history, and that's part of what makes it fun to work here. You've gotten to work for some really cool people in your time. Can you recall the first time that Tony Hallman walked into the ticket office when you were working there?
Yes, I can, because we were all the accounting. We were all right together in that one little room over where the old museum was. And Mr. Holman's office, his room, his desk, his office, was just an aisleway across from mine. And so he was constantly bringing people in, I mean, you know, to visit. And I met a lot of drivers. I met a lot of actors. I mean, during that time would
Yep.
pass through, you know, in that area. And I remember the very first time I was introduced to him. He sat down at my desk. He shook my hand, sat down at my desk with me, and wanted to know what I was doing and how was I going to be okay. You know, I'd come to work for him, and he wanted to make certain that I was going to be okay at what I was doing. And I said, yes, I will, you know. Very nervous,
Right.
you know, I can remember because I knew the history of this gentleman, and I thought, you know, he's sitting down and he really wants to know about me. But he did. He was a people person, too.
As we led into the 2016 Indianapolis 500, you were honored downtown Indianapolis by the mayor of Indianapolis as one of our Rose Award winners, which in this community is for one of those bright lights of people who understand customer service and make people who visit Indianapolis and Indiana feel like they belong. Who's your hospitality?
Yes.
What was that day like, that night like, when your family got to come at the ballroom downtown, the mayor presents you with a Rose Award. You knew you were nominated, didn't know you were going to get it till that evening. What was that feeling like?
A little overwhelming because, you know, you personally think, oh, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve all this, you know, hoopla, you know, I would call it. When I saw my daughter-in-law crying, I thought, because she was telling my son, that's your mother, that's your mother. You know, and I thought, wow, you know, I have been given an honor, singled out from tens of thousands of people that do this on a daily basis here in Marion County, the Indianapolis area. And I have had friends that supported me and put me up for this, and I thought, this is special. And so if you visit my desk, you know, you see my plaque, and you see the vase that had the rose in it, and it is extremely special.
Well, it was a special moment for all of us at the Speedway, especially for the folks that work alongside you every day, because they see your work ethic, they see how you care about customers, they see how you care about teammates. You're one of the best teachers of our young folks as they're coming through to learn our business. And that moment, I think, for all of us was a great way for us to really let the rest of the community see and understand how important you are, not just to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the 300,000 people who show up on race day, but for this community. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think with this, I'm going to let you look at the camera.
Okay.
And just talk to our fans. It's an opportunity for you to say thank you, opportunity for you to say anything you like, but I would love for you to let them know what you're thinking.
Okay. You know, I'm going to miss each and every one of you, even those that I don't talk to on a regular basis. It has been awesome, you know, the last few years, getting to know people, getting to know about your family, getting to know about what's going on in your life. And I love it when people call me and say, hey, my daughter, she just gave birth to a baby boy. I mean, I loved hearing that, and I loved hearing your stories. And I do want you to know that I am not totally deserting you. As Doug said, I do train and teach my team members in the office. And they actually have a period with me where I work with them on the customer service aspects. So while I may be kind of leaving, I'm leaving behind a good set of team, a good group of people that can help you, that will work with you, and that will love you just as I have. And I want to thank you so very, very much for appreciating this facility. I mean, you know, the race did not make the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway has made everything that has come along, whatever event, you know, whatever special activity we have here. It's because people want to be at this place. And when you stop and think about it being an international facility, people coming from all over the world, the friends I've made from all over the world as well, no better place to work, let me tell you. And so I truly appreciate all the years that we've had together, and you know, we'll keep in touch. I'm sure we'll find a way.
Well, that was pretty impressive. So when I'm not feeling good on these Behind the Bricks, I think we may have to have you just step up and lead these, because that you're not on the PR team. You don't go out and speak on behalf of us, but you couldn't speak any better than you just did. And And race fans, this place is special for a lot of reasons. You guys, first and foremost, make it special, but then it's also the people, especially the people that aren't out in front of the camera every day. Folks like Linda Price, who love this place, but more importantly, love you guys and love the experience that you have, and every day come in and try and figure out how to make your experience better. So, Linda, thank you for being part of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Thanks for letting me be part of your team. It's been a blast to work alongside you. Not done yet. We got a lot of things to do.
We got a lot of things to
next
accomplish.
9 months.
Yes.
So race fans, if you know Linda, send her a note, say hello to her in May, shoot her a phone call. We're not going to let her get too far away, but she's certainly made those experiences for all of us that much better here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. For you, as we led into the 2016 Indianapolis 500, you were honored downtown Indianapolis by the mayor of Indianapolis as one of our Rose Award winners, which in this community is for one of those bright lights of people who understand customer service and make people who visit Indianapolis and Indiana feel like they belong. Hoosier Hospitality.
Yes.
What was that day like, that night like, when your family got to come at the ballroom downtown, the mayor presents you with a Rose Award. You knew you were nominated, didn't know you were going to get it till that evening. What was that feeling like?
A little overwhelming because, you personally think, oh, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve all this, hoopla, I would call it. When I saw my daughter-in-law crying, I thought, because she was telling my son, that's your mother, that's your mother, and I thought, wow, I have been given an honor, singled out from tens of thousands of people that do this on a daily basis here in Marion County, the Indianapolis area. And I have had friends that supported me and put me up for this, and I thought, this is special. And so if you visit my desk, you see my plaque, and you see the vase that had the rose in it, and it is extremely special.
Well, it was a special moment for all of us at the Speedway, especially for the folks that work alongside you every day, because they see your work ethic, they see how you care about customers, they see how you care about teammates. You're one of the best teachers of our young folks as they're coming through to learn our business. And that moment, I think, for all of us was a great way for us to really let the rest of the community see and understand how important you are, not just to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the 300,000 people who show up on race day, but for this community. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think with this, I'm going to let you look at the camera.
Okay.
And just talk to our fans. It's an opportunity for you to say thank you, opportunity for you to say anything you like, but I would love for you to let them know what you're thinking.
Okay. I'm going to miss each and every one of you, even those that I don't talk to on a regular basis. It has been awesome, the last few years, getting to know people, getting to know about your family, getting to know about what's going on in your life. And I love it when people call me and say, hey, my daughter, she just gave birth to a baby boy. I mean, I loved hearing that, and I loved hearing your stories. And I do want you to know that I am not totally deserting you. As Doug said, I do train and teach my team members in the office. And they actually have a period with me where I work with them on the customer service aspects. So while I may be kind of leaving, I'm leaving behind a good set of team, a good group of people that can help you, that will work with you, and that will love you just as I have. And I want to thank you so very, very much for appreciating this facility. I mean, the race did not make the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway has made everything that has come along, whatever event, whatever special activity we have here. It's because people want to be at this place. And when you stop and think about it being an international facility, people coming from all over the world, the friends I've made from all over the world as well, no better place to work, let me tell you. And so I truly appreciate all the years that we've had together, and we'll keep in touch. I'm sure we'll find a way.
Well, that was pretty impressive. So when I'm not feeling good on these Behind the Bricks, I think we may have to have you just step up and lead these, because you're not on the PR team. You don't go out and speak on behalf of us, but you couldn't speak any better than you just did. And race fans, this place is special for a lot of reasons. You guys, first and foremost, make it special, but then it's also the people, especially the people that aren't out in front of the camera every day. Folks like Linda Price, who love this place, but more importantly, love you guys and love the experience that you have. And every day come in and try and figure out how to make your experience better. So, Linda, thank you for being
thank
part
you.
of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Thanks for letting me be part of your team. It's been a blast to work alongside you. Not done yet. We got a lot of things to do.
We got
over
a
the
lot
course
of things
the
to
next 9
accomplish.
months.
Yes.
So race fans, if you know Linda, send her a note, say hello to her in May, shoot her a phone call. We're not going to let her get too far away, but she's certainly made those experiences for all of us that much better here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.